Alright, cool. So what is the purpose of a titration? The purpose of a titration is to find out the concentration of a solution. So I've got a solution of sodium hydroxide here, and I don't know what concentration it is. And I also have a solution of hydrochloric acid, and I know what concentration it is. So what I'm going to do first is measure out 25 milliliters of sodium hydroxide solution. Now when we're using a glass pipette, we have to make sure that we fill it up to the meniscus. Right, so we have to ensure that the meniscus of the sodium hydroxide is level with the line on the glass pipette. Right, so what we're going to do now is transfer the sodium hydroxide into a conical flask. Okay, so now we're going to add some phenolphthalein indicator. Now this is a pH indicator, and when it goes into a neutral or acidic solution, it's colorless. But when it's in an alkaline solution, it turns pink. So we're going to add 2 to 3 drops to the sodium hydroxide, and it's going to turn pink. And then we just give it a little swish around like that. Right, so what we need to do now is fill up our burette. So we're going to put the burette and the stand on the floor like this. And then we're going to get our funnel and we're going to put it into the top of the burette. Okay, so before we begin the titration, we have to ensure that the tap of the burette is closed. Okay, so what we're going to do now is fill up the burette with some hydrochloric acid. Right, so when we're filling up our burette, we have to make sure that we overfill it and we fill it to above the 0 line. Right, so what we're going to do now is release the excess hydrochloric acid, and we're going to get rid of the air bubbles that are formed at the bottom near the tap. Now when you're filling up the burette, you have to ensure that you're looking at it from eye level. This is to make sure that the meniscus of the hydrochloric acid is sitting on the line of the 0 on the burette. Right, so what we need to do next is put the burette back onto the table, and then we can begin our titration. So now we need to get our conical flask with the sodium hydroxide and we put it underneath the burette. And then we slowly open our tap and we begin titrating the acid into the sodium hydroxide. Now you have to make sure that as you're titrating, you're swishing around the solution at the same time to ensure that it mixes properly. Now as you're titrating, every so often just close the tap and give it a little swish around and see if you see a colour change. Now as you get close to the end point of the titration, you have to add the acid drop by drop to make sure that you can observe when the colour changes. Now as soon as the solution changes to colourless, you must close the tap. Right, so we can see that the solution is now colourless. This tells us that the sodium hydroxide has been neutralised by the hydrochloric acid. Now the volume of hydrochloric acid that we used, we can use that to calculate the concentration of the sodium hydroxide.